Good day and good evening, and welcome to Dailies Hangout stream with me, Chaiji, but you can just call me Kai. So, the way this works, as usual, almost like as tradition, is that throughout the stream, I'll be working my way through most, maybe not all, of the daily roulettes. When we're done with them, we will possibly also do each of the current normal rate tier. Just because that's technically like a weekly objective as well. And that's essentially that. For each duty, the way that it works is that I will step over somewhere in my garden here and then say, if you want to come along with me for, say, expert roulette, you come over to me, and then you move over to me if you want to join. I will try to grab as many people as I can. We'll see if we can get like a balanced party going or whatever we feel like doing. And then we do the duty. As is commonly the case, there are a lot more people than can fit in an expert roulette, or as far as I can count here, even in a normal raid or trial. So sometimes we make multiple parties. That's not much I have control over, but sometimes people will make a secondary party, and then like we'll try to make sure that like we don't start the next roulette until the other parties have returned to the house, so that people don't miss the next opportunity, if they want to play with me specifically, just by joining another group. And that's pretty much it. I try my best to like rotate so that I don't bring the same 3 players each time, but a lot of the time when we get to normal raids and trials, enough people have been like, you know, oh, I have other things I need to do, and then like we're exactly like 9 or 10 players, so it's like it becomes more like, do you guys who are not in the party want to join? Yes, no. So, like, there it's less likely that we, like, try to replace the whole party, because there isn't enough people to replace the whole party in the first place. We also have yet to have so many people that we can fill an entire alliance raid, and because of that, that hasn't been a thing either. Also, besides, you can only queue as 8 players for alliance raid roulette, apparently. Although it would have been funny. Now, real quick, three news things before we get started on that. The first one is that Nox gave a new emote to the channel, which has been in the Discord for a little bit. It is now also here on YouTube. The Ha Watcher, which if you've ever seen the Ha Dog emoji on Discord, it's supposed to look like that, but it's a pink manatee. The second thing is that if anyone's, like I mentioned on a few previous streams, that I have a little bit of an ear problem, seeing a doctor next week, on Tuesday, very inconvenient, but it'll be solved then. The third thing is, like, at the end of next month, so like the 28th of August, unless plans change, I will be participating in shoutcasting on some PvP on John is Dead's channel in a live stream context. It'll be like in EU place, it'll be like midnight or later, but yeah, it's in like a month, so I'll probably mention it again, but it's something that was decided like yesterday, so I might as well mention it now. So if you think that sounds like fun, seeing some PvP, yeah, 14 PvP, then that's what that'll be. I believe it'll be primarily, you know, crystalline conflict stuff. So it'll probably be me, mainly being either knowing or not knowing how, like, what the meta stuff is, and maybe just mention random facts about interactions, because we sometimes have done PvP interactions on Mythbusters and things like that, or jank videos, and then John will probably know a lot better how the things actually work, because it's been so long since I did ranked PvP, but I did do it. I do have the crystal portrait things from Season 1 of Crystalline Conflict. But yeah, that is pretty much it for the news. So with that said, hey Ardell, hey Taldemar, hey Caetsu, hey Rost, hey Zaf, hey Lana, hey Alfie, hey Fern, hey Seros, hey Tung, hey Naomi, hey Monica, hey Betelgeuse, hey Tabby, hey Ilya, hey Matoro, hey Bob, hey Ham, and hey Jacob. Hope you're all doing very well. Now, if you would like to join me for Expert Roulette, come on over to me. Let me just get out my notes. So the way I do it is I write down the names, so I don't like grab the same 3 each time. But it does look like we could easily make 1 or 2 extra parties. So if someone you can just say in stage chat or something if you want to lead a secondary party, and then there you go. Ilana's making one. But yeah, this party composition should work. And I didn't even need to switch. I can just Black Mage. But yeah, it will be like some PvP stream, but it could be fun. It'll probably be fun. Hey Raging Bull, hope you're doing well. That doesn't sound healthy. The classic all-nighter. This is basically my retribution for Tuesday, where I rolled Black Mage on the Mentor Roulette, and then I got a guild test. And then later when I got other jobs that I find more difficult, oh, here's a level 100 dungeon. It never fails. Ham says it's on Salakaya Day. Oh, nice. Hey, Gustavo. Hope you're doing well. Oh, hi. Come here often. Boar monster. Oops. Getting those auto attacks in. Wouldn't want to miss out on 1 damage. It's always awkward with that little intermission there as Black Mage. Because it feels like you need always one too many attacks for it. Like, they just barely survive with like a smidge of HP, and you're like, well, I don't want to use a Fire Fall when it does that much damage. But then on the other hand, if you ignore it, then it'll explode. And the thing is, the crystals exploding in and of itself is not actually a problem. But they apply magic vuln, and I believe the explosion from the boss itself is lethal if you're already affected by the magic vuln and that happens. So if it happens to, if the crystal happens to explode just right, then it is lethal. So you do not want that. And while you can probably get away with, like, basically ignoring every second crystal, that requires some tight teamwork to make happen. And I don't think we're sweaty enough for that. You know what I mean? We're not that much in a hurry. I don't think I've been in a group where I felt like we outright missed out by not making use of that fact. I have been in groups where it was like, we might have been able to skip some of the crystals if we just went all in on the boss, but then again we might have wiped if we did that. So it's like, it's easy in hindsight to be like, oh man, we should have greeted. But it might not have worked. It's the most damaging job in the game. It depends on the encounter. I believe for the most part, it depends on what you mean. If you mean like in a single hit, like for instance, if you mean in a single hit, I think it's like White Mage or Ninja. If you mean like DPS, like just in general how much damage you can like put out, then it's usually between Viper or Pictomancer depending on the context of the fight and uptime, downtime, and raid composition and things like that. And I would say it's generally a good sign when the answer to the question, what is the strongest job, in any way, becomes, depends. That's usually a good sign. Oh, I made it first. Hey, False Geek. Hope you're doing well. But Black Mage is also up there, Gustavo. It also is up there in terms of, like, single hit attacks. It's just not as high up. But all the damage bonuses on Flare Star means that it is up at around, like, just shy of 1,500 potency relative to other jobs. Because the combination of Enochian, Maim and Mint, and Astral Fire, like when you add all those things together, it's nearly triple damage. It's like it's funny. You look at any fire spell Black Mage has, and like it's not quite triple. It's like just shy, but like a quick like just off the top of your head math, it's just triple it. That's closer to what it's actually doing than the number it says that it does. And also true, Jacob. Even in the cases where we're like, the best job is so-and-so, it of course requires that you're playing it perfectly. You got the same dungeon tongue. Oh, nice. I don't mind the movement. It's a little annoying with the like the spirits that come in and force you to move over and over and over again. But you can, at least as Black Mage, you have a lot of ways to overcome it. It's just being greedy, being like, no, I don't want a triple cast. I need my triple cast for Blizzard 3. Like, you're sure about that? You need all of them. You mean the maze? Yeah, I know you meant the maze, Tongue. But you saw? Did you see how I clowned on it so hard? I did like over 50% of the maze just pressing forward once. And yeah, that is a good example, Jacob. I do remember that. The new one-button rotation thing, or auto-rotation thing in WoW, which is official. It's not a bot. It's actually offered by the game itself. Beats a lot of players. Which, I'm just saying, real quick here, I made a video on the topic, and I did raise the concern that that was a possibility. And I don't think we've gone far enough that we can like do the you know, the social analysis on that what's gonna happen there. But it's still possible that WoW can end up in a situation where like specializations that are particularly like effective with the one button rotation, players will like, you know, be like, what? Like, if you're not playing really well, be like, why are you not just using the one button? You'd do more damage if you did that. Or alternatively, people using tools or, you know, add-ons to track who is using it, like by comparing and being like, oh, you're using the one button, bad, blah blah blah. Like there's a lot that can happen. We don't know if that's actually how it's going to play out, but it is a concern, and it was something that I feel like I'm pretty sure I brought that up in the video, and a lot of people were like in the comments, I felt like we're acting like I was exaggerating, and no, that's never going to happen. Meanwhile, and yeah, exactly, Tong. That was also why I raised it as a potential problem, was because it could potentially mean that other players would like get mad that you're not playing optimally when what you're actually doing is choosing to play the game instead of like using the autopilot. Oh, that's spooky. Very nice. Let's see, that was just about 13. Oh! Minion! Shishui! Atara won the minion, congratulations. About 13 minutes, that is usually about the time it takes, I think. And I don't know about whether it would be not affect anything, Jacob. It kind of depends on how it would be implemented. Thank you, Aradil. But it kind of depends on how it would be implemented. How impactful it would be. False Geek says, I feel extremely ashamed after healing Tower of Zod. Why is that? Did it not go well? I'll say live. Hope you're doing well. The Tower of Zod is... like, over the years, because it's been years since it got released, actually, even though it's Endwalker, it feels like people have, like, gone from it's actually really hard to it's hard to some players being like, nah, if you're just bad if you think it's hard. Which, I guess that's the thing with everything nowadays. I still feel like Tower of Zod has some mean pulls. It has some packs before the second boss, and then it has that final pull before the final boss, which are both pretty hard. But if your entire party knows what they're doing, it's not. But I'm just saying, I have seen, you know, Savage Raiders have trouble with some of those pulls. It's a lot on the tank. Oh, it does matter. It does matter if the tank is actually using its defensive smartly, and same also applies to the healer. I'll say Baller and Darth JF. Hope you're doing well. I just think it's fun, Baller. I think one of the biggest selling points for me with Black Mage is, unlike almost all other DPS jobs. Say Bounty, hope you're doing well. Unlike almost all other actually almost all other jobs, Black Mage has like mana font is there, but it is not so impactful that it is a huge deal if it drifts a lot. It matters, but it basically just skips an ice phase. That's it. And then you have Amplify, which you can just smash at any time, pretty much. Which means that Black Mage is one of the most flexible jobs, suddenly. And you have 2 leyline stacks, so you can just, you know, leyline when it makes sense, and then also during raid buffs and things like that. So the flexibility of it matters a lot to me. It also makes Black Mage really nice in, like, in open world content in a way, because you don't have the timer anymore. It's a very relaxed job now. And then you also have Firefall. I always make the memes about how many Firefalls I cast after each Savage raid. Usually it's over 2,000 in 6 hours. The last boss took like forever. Sometimes what can happen there, False Geek, is that if the party gets too caught up in attacking the other bosses on the final boss instead of focusing on the main boss, then a lot of damage gets wasted. Mainly because if you kill the other bosses, they get rest. And yeah, I also really like Viper. Right. So, next up, if you'd like to join me for level cap dungeons, come on over to me. I'll just stay here, because we have people all over the place, filling up everywhere else. You know, these are the times, as I say, where I wish I could bring more at a time. So the way I do it is, like, I genuinely sometimes just pick the first 3 to make it to me. Which is also why it's important that I don't pick the same 3 players each time. Because sometimes someone just never gets a turn because they're too slow, right? That's not very fair. But looking at how many came over, I have a feeling that it'll work after this one. Hey Melissa, hope you're doing well. Yeah, that's a little... Oh, Alexandria, of course. Has been a little bit. You know, I wish, I'm pretty sure it's not possible, but if it is, do let me know. I wish you could set a setting so specifically the focus target showed more buffs. Like specifically the focus target. Hey Slushy, hope you're doing well. But yeah, on that final boss in Tower of Zod, what tends to get people is getting too distracted with the other bosses. But then again, if you cleave them a little bit, that can actually be really good. Because I'm pretty sure they don't get healed or anything. If you don't kill them. If you don't kill them, then like you can hurt them preemptively. Princess Speed is here. She do be speeding. Hey Korox, hope you're doing well. And also to you, Yannick.
Your smile means all is right with the world.
If I smile, it is because you all smile for me.
Speed! Uh-oh. That almost counts as dodging it, doesn't it? The trick I use here is I usually lean further back to make sure that the elephant doesn't aggro me first, so that I can reset my rotation with Umbral Soul. It's like a really, really minor thing. I don't think it's necessarily the most optimal way to do it, but it's really, like, it skips both Blizzard 3 and 4. So it might be. But it specifically works because it targets the closest thing. He's in order and cool. Hope you're doing well. Oh, look, Devilment. 2 and 3. And reapply Thunder for the free snapshot. Uh-oh. I also usually end up using, like, I sometimes use ley lines on the elephant leading up to this guy, because, like, due to the whole charge system on ley lines and such, it can help with getting further quicker. But it wasn't even an option here. What will be an option though, uh-oh, is these ley lines. That was a very nice improvisation weave. I don't think I need it. I think it's a little wasteful to use a mana font here.
You are my people, and I will protect you.
Oh, nice, Auto. Personally, when it went back when I was leveling like all the jobs up to a level cap for the first time, I think that was in Shadowbringers actually. I tended to make sure to like space them out so that I like didn't just level everything to 70 before starting on the like level 80 grind, because there are things you can use to level slightly more effectively at specific level increments, like, you know, the hunt marks. Like, spreading them out can be handy, and also means you have a little bit more variety by not just leveling one job entirely one at a time. But you know, do what you think is fun. That's ultimately what matters. But it also does mean you can focus in a little bit by just going, well, I only need the stuff that is actually helpful at level 90 plus. Hey, Fila. Hope you're doing well. Hey, Nosha. Hope you are doing well as well. Thank you. Nyeh. These three mobs always being perfectly spaced out. I didn't need to reapply Thunder there. They move around a lot. They start perfectly spaced out, so you can't like thunder them while they're still spaced out. You have to wait. And when the tank finally has them in order, they dash around again.
Security breach confirmed. Initiating level 5 security protocol.
Very nice to be able to use the charges on ley lines, to just use them when you see the devilment coming. That is the reason why I put focus on Naomi, on Dancer, is I can more easily see and notice when technical step starts. But sometimes it's just not possible, because there's too many buffs. Hence why I said I wish there was a way to be able to see more buffs specifically on the focus target, but I don't think there is a setting for that. I wish there was a setting for that. Me using ley lines here will though mean that I will not be able to use ley lines in the next devilment, because I don't have a... I will not have one in stock in time. But usually with this boss, it's dead or dying by the time the next 2-minute burst comes up. So I usually just send it at a point where I can safely stand. And I think also if the 2-minute burst comes up in time, it usually overlaps with the chase, like the 3 circle AoEs on everyone. So if I try to hold it for that, I just get memed. Like here, this is, I think this is just a moment before the 2-minute burst actually, but
Fear not.
but the boss was, as I said, basically dead. Yes, I've done Alexandria a lot of times. As Black Mage.
Endless.
Yeah, that's true, Zen-Auto. That would also help. If there was more actively used options. Good thing I didn't use Amplifier there.
They've done it! They've preserved the Queen! We can't give up! Not until we keep complete!
Would have been the saddest overcap of polyglots. Uh-oh. Well, I'm gonna get hit. High-level Black Mage is fun. It is a little awkward when you have the double flare but not the flare start. It now, for AoE specifically, it does feel like it weirdly like lacks the proper finish. But I mean, back in the day, that was all you had.
Activate components. Engaging properties.
You already finished with Ghost Pack. Oh boy.
Attempting removal via incision. Re-attempting removal via incision. Removal failed. Commencing extermination sequence.
Hey, Mr. Bright. Hope you're doing well.
Attempting extermination.
Yeah, that is correct. Alexandria, even the fastest speed runs of Alexandria takes significantly longer than all the other max level dungeons.
Purging via armaments. Acquiring targets. Exterminating. Commencing final attack sequence. Attempting annihilation via high-powered energy discharge.
Bondi, I believe the speed run is just shy of 9 minutes, yes.
Energy accumulation complete. Initiating final attack protocol.
But it's basically almost exactly the same time for all the other not Alexandria dungeons at max level. Which is why it's like it's just about 9 or less minutes, if I remember correctly.
Foreign entities remain. Resuming annihilation.
And to your question, Rust, I think it kind of depends on which song. If it's specifically Wanderer's Minuet coming up, then I would say it might make sense to just let the army's peon tick out, so that you can make sure your burst lines up nicely. But if it's any other song, you probably want to make sure it keeps ticking correctly. Nice. Yeah, Ghost Park is actually really interesting. It's apparently, as Cole says, it's just hard enough that people bother to make strategies for it. The second boss has, like, you know, tactical images to explain how the teapots work, and the first boss has, like, position strategies. When I do it, usually, like, if we're double ranged, which is often the case, we'll have the range stand in opposite ends to bait all of the children, which makes it way easier to just stand in the middle. I learned, however, like yesterday, that I think it's the third wave. There they switch it up. The wave 1 and 2, the children will target the furthest away player, and then the closest player on the run back. For the third wave, apparently, either I saw it wrong, but it definitely looked like the children targeted closest player first, which was how I immediately got grabbed, because the strategy only works like that if you see it coming. Oh, right. I need to grab some quests. I'll be back in a second. And... well, back in game in a second. I'm still here. And yeah, thank you, Erdil. If you are enjoying the stream, it does help me a lot if you leave a like on it here on YouTube. It tells the algorithm this is an enjoyable stream and like other people enjoy it as well. So thank you so much in advance. I need my Relic grind quests, you see. Group 3 got Underkeep and Tender Valley. Well, you win some, you lose some. They don't add up to that much. The daily in Idleshire is worth like 40 poetics. The daily in Modona is worth 75 poetics. The weekly in Idleshire is worth like 700 poetics, so that one is a little bit more lucrative. But considering you have to do leveling roulette 3 times, it's 240. It's still decent, but it's not so much that it's like, no, my quest! Yeah, exactly. Might as well grab them, but it's not the end of the world if you miss it. Anyway, if you'd like to join me for high-level dungeons, come on over to me. Is it really that hard? All I do is pray the children hitboxes are good and pay attention to the teacups. The teacups thing is not that bad. It's just that it can really go badly if you like get hit too many times and the fight for some reason drags on. The children is the main reason why people really try to figure it out is because if you have a low latency, you can basically like just master dodge them. Like you can just dodge them by just dodging the child itself. And you only get hit if it's like clearly a hit. If you have any more than like 20 MS, the position of the child is not what it looks like. It's slightly like it's actually a ghost child, and like the actual position of it is further ahead. If you're like at 200 or 300 MS, it feels like they lunge at you as you close in. So it's like you straight up have to be completely out of their line. But there's so many that you can't really dodge all of them. And so the strategy that people employ to deal with that aims to make sure that you know where all of the lines are before the mechanic properly starts, which massively reduces the danger of the mechanic. It's not that bad. It's just that it's really annoying, and turns out that really annoying gets people to the presses. Usually those kinds of mechanics with, you know, like floating orbs that you have to sidestep either just hurt a bit or give you like a vuln stack but don't hurt so much that it is like a huge problem. Like in the near raids, for instance, all the pink orbs, you can like take 3 or 4 of them and be okay. But and that has usually been the case, that like those kind of orbs are like survivable, sucks, but it's survivable. And then Dawntrail comes along like, oh yeah, these children will first snare you and then pacify you for like 10 seconds if you get touched as much as once. It was particularly fun as Black Mage on launch, because it straight up just meant that like your state was gonna drop and just gone if you got hit even once. You just had to. Oh wait, well, sad times for that polyglot. And then there's M2, you know, Honeybee Lovely, where the hearts are basically the same thing. Oops, you got hit one too many times, but I guess you die then. Like, that's what caused the problem, is that, for the most part, the jank associated with these kinds of mechanics was excused by the simple fact that they weren't, like, immediate wipe conditions or immediate death conditions. You could take 1 or 2 and be fine, and then Dawntrail makes them actually lethal. That's what caused problems, nothing else. At least as far as I know. The optimal AoE rotations for Black Mage at level 70. Actually, just the optimal rotations for Black Mage at level 70 are weird. I think for the most part it kind of solves itself, because you rarely get to like just spam forever. Well, Bondi, your mistake is not doing enough variety content then. I see this one semi-regularly. You know, that is a good point, Cole. Before, people didn't care because if you got hit, it was a healer problem. Now, if you get hit, it's worse than a damage down. Oh boy. I don't remember Asymmetricon. I don't quite remember. I know there's something about a mount in one of these. Also, hey Asymmetricon, hope you're doing well. What is quite interesting is that in this level range, due to there being 0 randomness to the rotation, and the Thunder being like your only instant cast that naturally occurs, if you hit just the right GCD, you can basically guarantee that Thunder comes up at the end of your Astral Fire every time, and then you can like swift cast it. But you need a you need to line it up just right, and you need to have the correct amount of spell speed. And that's actually possible all the way from level 60. But the problem is you need to fit like 12 GCDs, I would say, in 27 seconds. You get the Magitech Rider mount from Zenos? Well, then we are in the right place. Oh, whoops. Oh look, loot. Yoink. Oh boy. Yep, there's the living dead. But it might not, it will not activate. Didn't need it. Hey, did you know that a warrior can solo this? Like actually that pull. Hey, Juriki. Hope you're doing well. I feel like it's been a while. Bam! It is going well for me. Oh, look, loot over here. Yoink, yoink. Ethereal manipulation, also known as loot grabbing manipulation.
I shall have to share these findings.
It's good to hear, Juriki.
Initiate soul extraction. Ha! Success.
Ow. I felt like the stun lasted just long enough that it confused me.
The soul rebels.
Take this!
My word, this data.
I guess I should have saved those ley lines. Eh. Well, it's better to switch to something you do enjoy, Juriki, rather than be stuck with something you don't like. That is for certain. There's loot over here. I'm grabbing it. The blob is sort of too far away. That blob. Do you that is good, Juriki. I used it like a lot of the time when those kind of statements come up, people tend to ask, do you still enjoy it after the 7.2 changes? I do. But to be fair, I've never like mained Black Mage before the 7.2 changes beyond like technically I played through the 7.0 story as Black Mage. But I've always enjoyed it. You keep doing the AoE on 1 to 2 tags just because you think it's fun. I notice you do it in M6S too. I do it on M6S specifically when I see there's, like, for instance, I do it on the Muse because they're next to Sugar Ride as well, so it's on 3 targets technically. I usually continue it because there are specific points. Oh, I should have led with a foul there. There are specific, you could say, exit points for the AoE rotation. So you, like, if you haven't reached one of those exit points, then it's going to be more costly to, like, resettle. So I'll usually finish that. Which also sometimes is the reason why I will just act like I can, like there's not anything to AoE if I feel like it's not worth my time. Which sometimes happens on M7S.
Let this moment last forever.
But in this level range, I'm not 100% sure if it's actually worth it to go full AoE on 2 targets. Oh right, that was that. I couldn't remember if it was like a knockback or something. Kill! But it is exactly, Bondi. At level 100, the AoE rotation is a 10% loss on single target. You probably don't need a math degree to recognize that that means that on 2 targets it's a massive gain.
Show me your role. Yes, yes, just so.
Yes, yes, yes. Whee! How's Sally? Hope you're doing well. More! Oh, that's a spooky combo. One of them, I believe, is lines on everyone. Oh, no.
Pity the strength?
The power to transcend. Noom.
The power to transcend.
Noom. Cole doesn't remember when Zenos was cool. Here's a funny story on that, Cole. In these days, like when this was current, as far as I know, Zenos was a very hated character. He just rolls in and just bodies you with not really very much background story. What is this? I'm the Warrior of Light. I didn't mind him, but a lot of people really didn't like him after the MSQ solo duty, where you have to win only for the story to go, but then you lost anyways. So when he then revived, people weren't super fond of him. Like, it was like, they're bringing him back, of course, why not? The character we don't like, of course he comes back. It's really a weird, like, flip with Endwalker. Also that, Ampolika. Also that. It's strange how you suddenly become, like, so loved, isn't it? Hope you're doing well, by the way. Anyway, let's see here. If you'd like to join me for leveling roulette, come on over to me. I'm trying to grab people that I haven't grabbed yet. Well, in that case, we're grabbing Zav again. Oh, did Yannick miss it by a second? Why in? Hey Zav, do you mind if we swapped with Yannick? He was like 1 second late to my call out. Thank you. Hey yo, hope you're doing well. How's the cookout at Kai's place going? I mean, it's looking good. Let's see. Whatever dungeon we get, I will not have Shake It Off or Nascent Flash, so we probably will need a healer. A healer or a tank. I'll switch to the other one. And Shisui of the Divided Types. Come. Go. I mean, it was like, I think like a 1 in 5, but I should have led with Raw Intuition. I don't know why I felt so inclined to use Vengeance first. Yeah, I get that, Jiriki. The thing is, I'm just saying, sometimes the player base can be a little too hungry for housing areas without really thinking about it. If you really think about it for a second. Because the housing areas we have right now, we have, you know, the 3 starting cities. Those make sense. And then we have Shirogane, which to some extent is basically the Mists again. The Mists is basically beach housing. Shirogane is beach housing again, but it's Japanese now instead of pirates. And then like people are like, can we also have Ishgard housing? Forgetting the part where Ishgard is the goblet, but instead of being brown, it's gray now, and the goblet is, to my knowledge, the least popular housing district. I accept, I acknowledge that some players said, yeah, but when we said Ishgard, we meant snow. There is not that much snow in the Ishgard housing area, admittedly. But it would still be mostly stone buildings in grey and white. That was what was being signed up for, ultimately. And I don't know how popular Ishgard housing is, but I'm pretty sure it's not competing very, very effectively with Shirogane or Mists. That's why we need moon housing. Ah, yes. Grey rocks. But that's exactly what I mean. We hadn't even gotten Ishgard yet before people were like, can we also have moon housing? Because we're going to the moon? And yeah, Smileton housing could be crazy. Like, just consider how they could do that. That would be insane. If they actually, you know, do something with it. Ham says there's also not that much snow in Ishgard. Also a good point. People might be going, well, Ishgard is, you know, the city in the snowy areas, so housing there would be snowy. Admittedly, there's not that much snow in Ishgard, now that you mention it. So, like, understandably, that bit wasn't included by default. They magnificent and gleaming, and Kanashi, hope you're doing well. Kanashi says I was thinking of grinding out Shadowbringers relics, and I was wondering how bad the grind is. The Shadowbringers ones are not that bad. If you're smart about it, you can do some steps simultaneously, but it does mean that you're going to be spending a lot of time in Delubrum Reginae, and let me put it like this, I did the grind in Shadowbringers, which meant that Delubrum Reginae was a lot shorter, which it is not now. Ham says people said Ishgard housing when they actually wanted Kurthas housing. That is a pretty accurate way to put it, yeah. But yeah, I'm not saying that it's unfair to ask for more housing, not at all. Like, we can ask for whatever we want, and the developers can then choose whether they want to do it or not, and then we can choose whether we feel happy or mad about their decision. Like, that's how that works. But I'm just saying that it's a little hard for the developers to actually land something we want if we are not very accurate, like if we're not very good at communicating what we want. And when I say we, I'm also recognizing that turns out the player base is not one big blob. Like, everyone has different preferences, right? Your code, Bondi. But wouldn't it make more sense to just play Affliction Warlock in World of Warcraft? Like, you have Affliction Warlock. Why does it have to be in Final Fantasy XIV? You have it in another game. Why do you want Final Fantasy XIV to be World of Warcraft? Why not just play World of Warcraft if that's what you want? They want to do Final Fantasy Ultimates. Well, what's the point in that? Isn't there something about the Ultimates getting too easy, Bondi? They're fun? I'm sure the raids and WoW are fun as well. Hey Lotus, hope you're doing well. That is an interesting point, Lotus, that they basically have like put in place the possibility of Crystarium housing if they ever plan to do it. A really random tip for this section in the dungeon is that while there might not seem very much point to pull the pack into this corner at face value, notice how the weird spiky ball, like spiky fish out there don't come in here. So if you have like a mage or something, then they don't have to dodge. They can just stand in here. They should add the Night Elf Mohawk to Final Fantasy XIV. Yeah, they should. I'm a Night Elf Mohawk! Yeah, the thing is with that, Yuriki, on the players like gobbling up housing that they shouldn't have, is something that I've said many times could be solved by deleting the workshop. That is a very extreme solutions, I suppose. But the problem is the workshop. The problem is the submarines, which are connected to the workshop. If you remove those, then all that housing has no reason to exist. Yes, Sally, the Night Elf Mohawk was many years ago. Blizzard made ads for WoW where they had, like, Mr. T. And he was a Night Elf Mohawk, of course. And that's also when they added the Mohawk as a hairstyle. For Night Elves, notably. This is also relevant recently because Ozzy Osbourne also was in one of those ads as the Prince of Darkness, of course. F for him. Not the worst way to go out, I suppose? Question mark? I'm not sure. Moving the workshop to the Grand Company and having it still tied to Free Company sounds nice. That could be the case. I still think that there is some balance issues there. Oh yeah, that was like 10.5 minutes. Speed. Double fist range meta. You also invited types. Oh. But yeah, the main reason why I'm like saying that when like Bondi says, can I have Affliction Warlock, is like when I say I want a dot job, you know, I want a dot job in the confines of what makes sense in Final Fantasy XIV. Affliction Warlock, as it is in World of Warcraft, in basically every iteration, would be a bad fit for Final Fantasy XIV. But a dot job that plays similar to Affliction Warlock might make sense. If they're tied to Free Companies, why not add it to the Free Company bank thing? That could also be, William. The thing is, the workshop is like a whole room in the Free Company. But the big problem with it is that the workshop itself, once fully set up, basically prints money. Like, that's the problem. Specifically. If it didn't print money like that, then there would be very little reason to bother. But if the problem we're trying to solve is an economy issue, then you need to hit the workshop directly. If the problem is a housing issue, then remove the workshop from housing. And if you want to solve both, then, you know, one part is remove workshops from housing, and another is look into the money that you print with a workshop. Like, it's two problems. And depending on what you're trying to solve. You have Blue Mage? Well, the thing is, Tung, any job example that involves Blue Mage will be followed up with, but it's a limited job. And Blue Mage isn't Affliction Warlock. Blue Mage, much in a similar way to any other job in Final Fantasy XIV in regards to dots, just put the dots up because they do the most damage. It would be a very different story if the dots did something. That's the big problem. They don't really do anything. Like I said in Endwalker that the closest we had to a dot-centric job in Final Fantasy XIV in Endwalker was Black Mage. And if you are thinking, what about so-and-so job, I can guarantee you that not a single other job actually had an interaction with their dot beyond it does damage. Thunder produced Thundercloud, and Thundercloud meant that you wanted the dot up regardless of the damage the Thunder dot itself did. And Tung says, but the only reason you put your dots up is because it did a lot of damage. The dots didn't do anything for you. They just did damage. You put the dots up, the dots didn't do anything for you. You put Thunder up, the Thunder gave you Thundercloud. In Shadowbringers, Bard dots actually were the source of your repertoire effects on your songs. So at that time, Bard was a dot job. In a way, I would argue that Summoner wasn't, because they interacted with their dots in Shadowbringers by applying their dots once every 2 minutes. And other than that, they used an OGCD to maintain it. They used less GCDs on their dots than Bard did at that time. And I do agree with that, Lotus. I have a video on the channel where I was like spitballing ideas about what Viper could be when we had only seen like the preview where they showed off a few actions, and that was it. And I suggested that it could absolutely be like, it could be a dot job. I also described how it could be exactly like Reaper. And here we are. Is everyone back? Thematically, I always thought Time Mage could make for a good dot job. That could work. Like you put up some dots, not sure what they would be, and then you use like time magic to like speed through them or something. And then you put up the dots again, and then you speed through them again. That could work. Hey Hansa, hope you're doing well. Hey Bagel, hope you're doing well. I kind of agree with you, but then also recognize that since Paladin, there has not been a job that could use a weapon in each hand. Machinist doesn't get an offhand slot for their lunchbox. Red mages don't get a secondary for their focus. Dancers don't get to have 2 separate chakrams. I don't know what... I recognize that Sage would be weird, but I mean, they could have had 2 pairs, right? And Ninja didn't get 2 different daggers. And specifically, the Viper design would be really weird if you had 2 different weapons, because they're supposed to mechanically fit together. So that wouldn't make any sense if you could have two different weapons, right? They have to be able to, like, to have the fitting mechanism to fit together. You could argue that, well, they could have just said that this kind of weapon, like, we've all agreed on the design. They all use USB 3. So you just, and then it works. Like, you could just say that. It's a fantasy game. But I could see why they wouldn't, because a lot of combinations might look really weird. Bunny says ninja with one weapon existed at a time where Black Mage had shields. Yeah, and Paladin did too. Thank you, Erdel. And I'm just saying, the sequence of additions here is Thaumaturge and Conjurer in either 1.0 or Realm Reborn, and they could use shields. Gladiators there too, using shields. Then Paladin is technically added in either late on original 1.x days or in 2.0. And then Ninja is added, and at that point they've decided no more. So at some point around the Realm Reborn, they decided that they didn't like this idea. And then stopped making them. And they've at least been consistent about that. Anyway, let me just, let's see here. If you would like to join me for Trials Roulette, come on over to me. I'm over here in the corner. I want to see how many wants to come, and then we'll see what we do. We have 11. And me. Not doing MSQ. We might circle back to MSQ. But MSQ is one of the ones, so I usually skip that one. Roll time. I will start by disbanding, and then I'll grab the ones that haven't had a chance yet first. And then I'll try and grab those that have waited the longest. Hey Shaq, hope you're doing well. Oh man. Oh, is Milo here as well? Did he just pop out of nowhere, or was he here wanting to join? He walked in late. That will have to be the group. We've become so many that soon we would also be able to run an alliance raid. Ilana's making a second group, I think? Yuriki says, give us a new spearfishing gig so that we can have proper 720 fisher. That is weird, by the way. That one is whack. Like, that's straight up jank. That they go like, yeah, here, have an offhand, fishers. And then just, no, you'll never get another one. Like, why? Can you even queue Alliance Roulette as a full pre-mate? No, you cannot. You can only do it as max 8. You can queue Alliance raids with a full Alliance, but Alliance raid Roulette itself is up to 8. I'm pretty sure. It says so at least when you see the description. Imagine putting a buff on your boss when it's invulnerable. No, I thought the same, Sally. I'm pretty sure we ran into this as a problem in a stream ages ago, where I think we actually managed to round up 24 people on OCE to do Alliance Raid Roulette on Small Kai or something, and then we discovered that we had to like queue as 3 separate alliances. Wink. Dead. Meh. Would defeat the purpose of Roulette if you had a full alliance already. Would it? Because we're doing the same right here. Like we're basically doing a full party for the trials and normal raids. You got Thornton? Oh boy. There is something funny about that, Zav. Because it's like, Thornton Normal is the perfect example of, no, you must see what I've got. That is quite a lot, Juriki. Sally says if you've got more than 8 people in the yard, may as well test. Oh, I can guarantee you, Sally, if you're in an alliance raid, like if you have more than 8 people, then it will not let you queue. We have tried. Hey, Seraph, hope you're doing well. The mistake guide for Thought and Normalists just don't stand in the orange and enjoy the show. I'm pretty sure that he wasn't hard even in Heavensward, but I do think that he was less of a pushover. But I also want to reiterate that in Endwalker, there was this one time where in the tea time streams that we reviewed a clip where a group beat Thought and Normal without moving. As in without moving. As in nothing made them move. Not even like, oh, there's like 4 sprint markers on you right now, you should probably move. Nope. The frostbite things? Nope. Just tank it. Just heal through it. And it worked. So you're just stuck out in a goop on the edge of the arena, I believe, and you just heal through it, and it worked. That's how easy Thought and Normal is. That's how easy it is. Oh, is Party 2 out? Yep. Well, next we are doing normal raids. If you'd like to join me for that, come on over to me. For the normal raids. I'm going to grab some of those that didn't get 2 goes yet this time. Now if I can actually find the names in my list, that'll work. What's going to be funny is we might actually be able to make everyone land in the same place for I actually count one more person that only got 1 turn. But yeah, exactly, we can all possibly go together in Crystal Tower. I do feel like, Joe, I will say, it would have been a lot harder to sell the whole, oh no, I'm exhausted, I didn't beat you thing at the end. Like, the fact that he's that easy would be a much worse sell if he didn't do that at the end. But it is funny how you basically just meme on him, and then he's like, what? That wasn't enough? How? If he felt like he was like 100% ready to go further, it would feel like he wasn't trying. Right? But because he's like completely done, like he has a damage down after that, it gives the impression that he actually gave it 200%, and he's just an old guy, yeah. He tried as hard as he could, and it wasn't enough. So like that, at least like lore-wise, quote-unquote, kind of brings it home. It's still silly. Zenos and Lollipop Pizza, hope you're doing well. I think it's been a bit, Lollipop Pizza. Heart of the Creator. That's forward and back, isn't it? You got P12N. Oh boy. Her theory shall be proven as fact. I'm like, that's forward and back, isn't it? Glances down at the specific arena for Cruise Chaser. I think so. Yeah, I get that, Darth, but I don't feel like all of the MSQ trials are that easy. Like, that easy. That is why, like, Thordan stands out like that, because it's that easy. Like, it's a whole different level. Although, admittedly, Ifrit normal, Titan normal, and Garuda normal also are, like, at a pretty funny level now. But I will say that I do recall in Stormblood that they weren't as easily pushed over as they are now. They weren't hard, but they weren't trivial. Uh-oh. Oh. And to be fair, Nozerald, I was the black mage with the spread marker. The other black mage did not have one. Oh, whoops. Oh, well. Yeah, I had the spread marker, that's why I moved. Oh, you thought like we all had it? I only realized after I moved that that it wasn't everyone, but I recognized that the other black mage didn't have it at least. Wait. Wow. I didn't even know that was an option. I didn't remember that was an option. That's really funny. Of course it's an option. I think I've even done that myself. The double card always surprises me. Double card. I think there's a mechanic happening. Do we have to do it? I do see why there's just a bunch of cards landing on me. Just did you notice, everyone? We have a full pre-made with 4 mages. Wow, what am I gonna do with this melee card? Rework Castrum. Yeah, that one was quite something. And yeah, that's fair, Darth JF. It's also like, the thing is, going, well, actually, back when it was new, it was hard, is like, okay, but it isn't now, and that's what we have now, so... Like, it's relevant if you, like, discuss whether content was hard when you released it, but in, like, a general sense, it is fair to say that it, like... My opinion on whether like a duty is at the correct difficulty, and someone who just got into the game that didn't experience it when it was new, like, both are valid. When in doubt, give the cards to the funny streamer, man. Yeah, all I noticed was that Yannick had higher enmity than me. I don't know if that happened because of the ley line shenanigans at the start, but either way, Yannick had higher enmity than me. It was because of the ad? Oh, you didn't switch? Aha, right. Yeah, that would do it. Yep. And the second party got P12N. That one I believe is a little longer. Cole says this song is the only reason I made it through Realm Reborn. A friend sent it to me when I started, and my first like 50 hours were exclusively to do this fight. That is quite something. My experience with Final Fantasy XIV was probably a lot different, because I've said this many times, I got into Final Fantasy XIV after playing WoW, and well, at least in my experience, the approach to sound in World of Warcraft is you listen to your own music most of the time. So I kind of just did that in Final Fantasy as well. And I think it was when I did Fist of the Father that I just so happened to not have my own music on at the time. I was like, whoa. As Locus, by the way, the song name. Like, wow, this is bopping. Maybe I should listen to the game for once. It's pretty good. And then I didn't do Alexander for like, I did the first 2 fights, I think, and then I just didn't. Like, I unlocked normal raid roulette and then moved on. I don't know how I nailed that, because I didn't do that deliberately. I just tried to unlock things. And I just realized that, well, this is quite a long chain, isn't it? And then just moved on. And it took a long time before I came back. But it was quite wild, because, like, compared to World of Warcraft, like, I don't know how it is now, but all those, like, 15 years I played WoW, bosses generally just had, like, what's the word? Like, music to, music to fit, like, the area. Which also means, because when you engage the boss, the music doesn't change, which does make it a little weird if the, you know, the specific music there might not fit fighting at all. And you're in a crazy boss fight and you just hear like soothing piano and the flute. And yeah, I probably would have had some experience like that too, Cole. The problem was that I wasn't even listening. Oh, party 2 is out. How many people are we for alliance raids, actually? Can we like... How many people are actually interested in alliance raids? Because we might just focus on making 2 teams and try and queue at the same time. And I have one team here, and we can have the other team, and then we just queue and see if we can make it work. How many players are in team 2? How many do we have in team 2? 4. Okay, how about team 1? We step over here so that the people that are not in a party can find team 2. I know you can't, you can only see my markers on the stream, but if I do something like this... and then we can see how many we actually are in total. Are we actually so many that we need to make 3 teams? That's kinda true, Melissa. The interesting thing is, I remember, like, I think it was back in the Burning Crusade, there was an add-on in WoW that added mount music. And it was, like, that add-on was basically banned. Because it changed game files. Second team is full. If there's someone that isn't in a party, can you go over like there? And if you are in a party, can you step away from that marker? So we're 18. If we have 2 players from each of the parties we have here join Taldemar and Matoro, we can have 3 6-man parties. I think. It's like this. Avarian says, got something for you to myth bust. Heard someone say that in World of Darkness, Cerberus gets a damage resist up when he slumps, so it's better to get chains on fast rather than wait. Well, I have basically covered in detail how Cerberus works. You can see on Cerberus that he doesn't get any buffs or debuffs at all while he's slumped. The reason why some players think that he takes more damage, because that's something some people believe, is because he looks like he's in pain. It would make sense for him to take more damage, right? But they never checked. That's a funny thing with a lot of myths that we busted. I don't think we specifically myth busted on that one, because it's like, it's one of the really boring myths, because all you do is like, you go to the fight and you go, look, he doesn't have a buff or a debuff. And you can also say, look, my Fire 1 does the same damage whether he's slumping or not. It's not very interesting, and there's not very much to talk about, but whether he can eat everyone is quite interesting. But the reason why some players might think that he takes less damage while he's slumped is actually more likely to be a misunderstanding, because some players like to do this thing where they'll grab the chain and just hold it, so that they're ready to apply it just before he stops slumping, right? But the chains have a duration. Like, if it takes out, you just lose your chain. So if you just hold it for too long, you'll just lose it, and you won't be able to make it back and grab another one. For some reason, it's like that. Which actually makes it really dangerous to just grab it and hold it. You don't want to do that, preferably. Now, that is one reason why you try to, deter people from being slow. Because, like, you'd rather have the chains placed so that people don't sit on them. But more importantly, while it doesn't get a resist up, is that you will have 2 geniuses standing there with their hat in their hands, sitting on their bums, doing this much damage. That is how Cerberus takes less damage while he's slumped. Just because there are people not attacking. Like, this whole strategy with being late with the chains would work if you don't grab the chains and hold them. You just fight Cerberus, and when you're like, oh, I need to grab the chains, you run over, grab them, and put them on him. The problem is you grabbing them and, like, bogarting them. Like, no, it's mine. It's mine. It only works for everyone if everyone is in agreement. Because if everyone is in agreement, then you don't need to grab the chains to prevent others from grabbing them. because you're all on the same page, you're going to put the chains on Cerberus in the last moment. But the key here is that while, yes, that makes it slightly safer to just burst on him because he's not attacking or moving, the fight is easy enough that there's just no need. There's just no need. But it is like a huge misunderstanding situation. Some players think he takes more damage because he kind of looks like he would, right? And others think he takes less because his HP is technically going down slower because there are people not attacking. And that can also be the reason, Ilana. I've heard some cases where people have been accused of stealing a chain when one of the players that just stood there had it time out. Which is, by the way, also impossible. And the reason why it's important to chain him early rather than late is if you chain him early, then he'll start attacking again early, but he will attack normally early. If you chain him too late and miss the window, then there is an extremely high chance that you will actually wipe. Like, when you chain him, you actually reset a building buff on him that makes him, basically, it's like a soft enrage. And if you don't do that, he will eventually reach a point where he just goes, bap, 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 tank dead, bap, 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 next tank dead, bap, 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 next tank dead, and then he just starts eating everyone. Just. So it's actually, like, basically, being late on the chain is extremely dangerous, and the reward is very low. That's why you don't want to do that. Did we have a late arrival that also wants to come for alliance raids? Yes, no, maybe. It's you. Did you get in a party? But yeah, it's just chaos and people not understanding the fight. But generally, my advice is don't hold the chains, because holding the chains risks wiping, while being fast on the chains just risks that you might get hit. Right, I will do a ready check. Is group 2 and 3 ready? I will queue when the Eorzea time says 11:50. And then we hope that we all land in the same duty. But hey, we almost had 3 full alliances. That is, I think, a record. And it's coming up in a moment. Abort? Abort? Or did your queues pop? Well, you choose what you want to do about that. Somehow we have someone who isn't eligible. I know for a fact that the game tells you if it's you. So Tung, Milo, Yannick, Bob, Larencia, Alexander, check your chat log. What's wrong? Is your gear not good enough, Tung? Because if it isn't, then you have to play a different job. Right. I'll do a new ready check. Yeah, they basically, sometime like super late Endwalker or early Dawntrail or something, they made this restriction because players would just strip down to guarantee they get Crystal Tower. Hey cat, hope you're doing well. I will queue when it says 12:40. I don't think we can salvage it again, if it does again, because I'm pretty sure I don't want to risk having declined for 2 parties more like twice in a row. So hopefully we'll get it right this time. And that is funny. Well, one party popped. Maybe it'll work. We might still get 2. Well, if you're enjoying the chaos, it does help me a lot if you leave a like on the stream here on YouTube. You know, tell the algorithm this is an enjoyable stream like other people enjoy it as well. Thank you so much in advance. Well, it popped here. And you got Wiping City. Did we get at least 2 alliances in? We did! Woohoo! But it is World of Darkness. Yeah, speaking of Cerberus, in fact, this will allow us to go and check. Why did I start casting Fire 3 there? That was silly. We will be able to check if Arian. Kaboom! I don't mind World of Darkness. Again, I think the biggest problem with World of Darkness and Crystal Tower in general is for a lot of players that got tired of it, is because they're tired of it. Like, the problem is that it's always Crystal Tower. It's not about Crystal Tower. Which I believe it's a similar problem with, like, Expert Roulette sometimes. Is that, because it's 2 dungeons, it gets old way too fast. World of Darkness is the best Crystal Tower raid because it has actual mechanics you have to do sometimes. That is a good point. But it is quite funny that a lot of players hate it because it's just weird enough that a lot of players just don't know how to do it. Just straight up don't know how to do it. Like a particular case I remember when I released that what happens if Cerberus eats everyone Mythbuster back in Endwalker, was that there were a lot of players saying, oh, I now know how Cerberus works. As in, they didn't know how the fight worked. And the most cursed case was someone going, I played since ARR back when this came out, and I've just now learned how this fight works. That's when it's really cursed. Like someone that has played for like a decade, presumably frequently, or at least a bunch of times gone into World of Darkness, and they've never questioned how this fight worked, that they had no idea how it functioned. They just assumed you hit the boss and it just works. And to be fair, I've talked about this before, the problem is sometimes that if you don't wipe, then there's very little reason to like review what went wrong. Like, you might die, or like half the raid might die, but you will still have very little reason to review like, oh, what went wrong. If you clear, you might just go, oh, that was weird, I guess I'll figure out what the problem was next time I get this duty. And then like 3 months pass, and because of that, you just never learn. Like, a lot of these things, it would be a lot easier to figure out what the problem was if the boss would straight up just wipe you if you don't get it right. Jose Zip Zap, hope you're doing well. And yeah, exactly, Malaysia. Yeah, I'll learn. Any learners? How does the level flare and death work? Oh, I actually cover that one in the what happens if Cerberus eats everyone video as well, Jiriki. The way that they work is that they, in the circle, it counts how many, like, it basically counts the combined level of everyone in the circle. And if the total count of players adds up to a multiple of 100 in the case of Flare, I believe, then it does a lot of damage to everyone in the circle. If it adds up to 100, like to a multiple of 150, in the case of Death, then everyone in the circle dies. So, the reason why we covered it in the video is because we tested whether it actually checks your level, and it does. Which means if you're doing it synced, level 100 Flare is basically if there is a multiple of 2 players in this circle, everyone gets punished. Like, everyone in the circle gets punished. And the 150 Death is if there's a multiple of 3 players in the circle, everyone in it dies. And sometimes you'll see a whole bunch of players die, either because A, they all decided that, someone else will move, or they didn't understand how it worked, so they didn't move. Like, either way, they didn't move. But if you're doing it unsynced, hilariously, if you're at a really weird level, it's really unlikely that it'll actually be able to activate at all. But it's basically counting levels. And understandably, the level 100 Flare and level 150 Death are extremely confusing mechanics. Because I don't believe they work in the same way as any other mechanic ever before. Like, not exactly. Oh, whoops. At least not exactly. Yeah, they're callbacks to older Final Fantasy games, but arguably... And by the way that those tethers work, Larencia, in case you're confused, is that a dragonfly is shooting at you, which builds a debuff. You can, like, as a DPS, you can only take, like, 1 or 2 hits from it. and then you will actually have problems. You're supposed to pass it on to someone else when you can't take anymore, which you do by just running into someone else that hasn't had it yet. Yeah, exactly, Gleaming. We tested back in Endwalker when it was level 90, and we managed, I believe we managed to make Death work with 5 players or something like that. And we certainly managed to demonstrate that Flare and Death didn't activate on 3 players, even though it should. Or rather, Flare didn't work on 2 players, and Death didn't work on 3 players when we were unsynced. Even though, like, if it didn't check levels, but rather player count, it should work. But what I was getting at is that it's a reference to old Final Fantasy games. But in Final Fantasy XIV, there are other like level insert number here mechanics. The problem is that they're so supremely rare and often stupidly distributed, to be perfectly honest with you, that they rarely work. Can someone tell me what level you sync to in Hawk Manor? Does anyone know off the top of their head what level you sync to in Hawk Manor? 32? 31 or 32. So tell me... So, there is one of the eye boys in the dungeon that will cast a level 5 Petrify. Which will petrify anyone in the frontal cone in front of it. That's not a good start. That is looking at it. And is a multiple level of 5. So you have to stand in the cone, look at the gaze mechanic, and also be a level that is a multiple of 5. And the sync is not 25 or 30. How many do you think has ever seen it work? Do you get where I'm going with this? I'm pretty sure that's the first time you see a level number mechanic in the game. And it straight up basically never works. Even if you are the correct level. That is really convenient for me. Easy game. Well, yeah, basically what I was getting at is that there are a few level things in the game, and all of them essentially work by the logic that it's either you are a level that is a multiple of the number, like level 5, or in the case of the boss in World of Darkness, if the combined unit of characters inside the circle are a level that is a multiple of the number given. It's not bad, it's just a shame that those mechanics hit so rarely that they don't really teach you how they work. Also, you can see here no damage down or damage up debuff. And I don't believe my damage output changed. Ow. Well, I almost nailed it. But it is one of those myths that come about primarily from players that are not really paying attention. I've also say it's very possible that people are spreading the myth that Iverian mentioned, that Cerberus takes less damage while he's slumping, to try and trick players that really want to hold the chains into not doing it. I have heard other examples where I've like actually demonstrated a myth to be false. For people in the comments to be like, yeah, well, some of us say this lie knowing that it is a lie to trick people into doing the thing that we want them to do. How common that is the case is a different story, but that also makes sense, right? Like, a myth like Cerberus takes less damage while he's slumping is extremely easily explained by, well, the player spreading that myth would want you to not hold the chain. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. Doesn't Cerberus take more damage while slumped, says Casey Cake? Nope. Didn't have a buff or a debuff, did he? Nope. He just doesn't hit back while he's slumped. That's it. He just doesn't hit back. That's the only motivation you need to hold him there, of course. But the only benefit is that he's not doing anything. But the reason why it's actually a bad idea to let him slump is that if you miss the timing, as I said a little bit ago, if you miss the timing and he stops slumping before you actually put the chains on him, then you will die. As in, you're basically playing, you're greeting a hardened rage that will wipe you with an almost guarantee. There's just no need. Like, if the fight was actually so dangerous and difficult that you'd rather he did nothing and it was worth the risk, then that would be a different story. But the phase after he gets chained up again is not that hard, is it? Yeah, exactly, Seraph. Basically, if you don't chain him up, then he'll just build an infinite damage buff and attack speed buff. And it only takes so long before he starts insta-killing tanks. And then DPS and then healers. Did she just... Really? She made it out with 0.1% HP. Wow. Wait, what? Did Agent Monica solo queue? That's really weird. How did that happen? Is what hard-coded? No, you can kill her before she disappears. Yeah, that sounds about right, Casey. Like, yeah, because it's not a hardened rage, but more like a softened rage, as Seraph put it, you can save it. Like, if each of your tanks see it coming, you can just have the first tank just invuln, and then if you still need more time, like, that tank will die, and then, like, Cerberus turns to the next tank, they invuln, and then, like, they die, and then, like, the last tank invulns, and then they die. But that's, like, if you, like, that's, like, 30 seconds. Zab says, a lot of people tell others to ignore the clouds because you can kill her before she casts the thing, but if you can't, she gets 16 damage ups. Yeah, pretty much. That one is also if you do it, you might save time, but if you can't, then you die. But I have managed to skip part of the cloud phase without ignoring the clouds. Like, just helping with dealing with the clouds and then suddenly turning around and like, oh, she's at like 1% HP. Huh. I don't know how that happens, but I've seen it happen. Maybe it was like 10 Vipers going ham? If only we could do that to Thought and Extreme. Imagine if you could skip all that. Hey Tiff, hope you're doing well. Should I be saving my tomestones if I want to upgrade my crafting gear come 7.3, or are the new tomestones introduced? New tomestones are introduced in 7.4. I believe people are currently, those interested in upgrading their crafter gear, are buying materials with heliometry to prepare for it. However, I do not know what materials you will need because I have not looked it up. But some people that are more into crafting and gathering might know the answer. But you can start collecting now. Right. I will be right back. In the meantime, manatee restored. Bloop. Right, I'm back. Thank you so much for the 20 gifted memberships, Bob. Thank you so much. That's wild. It's awesome. Thank you. Daily says, I think new mats will be introduced and current ones will get discounted, so I save. They will not. The ones that are discounted currently, Sally, are from 7.0. In 7.4, new in 7.4, mathematics will be dropped down to being the farmable tombstone. A new tombstone will be introduced. The materials that are currently on offer for heliometry will have their prices slashed, and then new materials will be added, and they will all cost mathematics instead. That is how it always has been. So it would be very surprising if it wasn't this time. Now, with that said, I think we will finish up with doing the normal raids. And the current mats are from 7.1. The current mats are from 7.0. No, wait. The current mats are from 7.2. I'll check now. Yep. Dichromatic compound 7.2. Basically, they add new materials with each raid tier, and there isn't a new raid tier in 7.3, so there won't be new materials in 7.3. For tomestones. Right then. Yeah, we're not talking about script mats. We're talking about tomestones, because that was what was being asked. Right. Let me start by doing this. And then if you would like to join me for normal raid re-clears, so M5 to 8, come on over to me. And see how many we are. Oh, you haven't finished yet? Right, sorry. First of all, we'll have to try again in a second. I think people are spawning right on me. Sorry about that. Right, so I'll move over here instead. If you'd like to join me for normal raids, M5 to 8N, come on over to me. And see how many we are. We'll count first. We are 10. 9. We are 9. This would work. Thank you for those that volunteered to step out. I don't know how many didn't come over because they expected there to be a huge amount of fight over it. Bye, Juriki. Enjoy your day. Highest pass gets to stay in for the next one. King of the Hill style. Wow. It would be a lot easier if I just had a way to like sort out everyone. But I do want to try and get everyone. It's just unfortunate I can't. Hey Lucas, hope you're doing well. If Kai gets the lowest pass, does Kai not get to play? See, that's the funny thing. That is the funny thing. When you're the guy with the camera. You win some, you lose some. Like, for instance, both Sip and Aradel, just for example, have multiple times in the past been dragged along for things that I'm arranging, like in mount farms, even though they might already have the item that we're farming. I might have the item, but we're doing it, and you're coming because reasons. And because I'm the guy with the camera, I can't not be in the party. If Kai gets the lowest pass, the highest pass gets to take over the stream. The stream just blips and then suddenly someone else is streaming. That would be weird. We're just going to take it from the top. Yeah, I believe it said no because you were in the loading screen, Naomi. This is a robbery, put your hands on the keyboard. If you are in a loading screen or something, when a ready check is sent, it basically auto declines it. You can do a countdown if you want. We have a dancer that says yes, please.
Are you ready to get down?
The Upstart's Cruiserweight campaign begins.
Now, the D crit firefall into the regular hit flare star.
We're just getting started. Keep grooving, baby.
Dancing Green is pulling out all the stops with each step.
On the dance floor, everyone's a star.
Hey, little potato. Hope you're doing well. Basically, it means that Bob, who is in the... I believe they're still in the chat, gave 20 people a month membership of the channel, and that means you have extra emotes and things like that. There's also an extra role on the Discord server if that means anything to you.
An invitation to dance. How will the challenger respond?
But I'm glad to have you. Yeah, it's similar to a Twitch sub, yes. Hey, Bread Bean. Hope you're doing well. Also you, little. How long is Near Raid 3 meant to be normally? That's hard to say. 40 minutes sounds like your group was like... I would say slightly below average, maybe? But a funny thing that I remember from Shadowbringers is that in Shadowbringers, the near raids took a lot less time. But I had the same experience with the Endwalker Alliance raids, that Dawntrail began, and nowadays they take longer. So I'm guessing that a big reason why they take long is because a lot of players might not have experience with the fights. So like usually when I have a long near raid, it's because people are dying a lot. Yeah, exactly. As you said, a lot of people died.
You're up, dancers! Let's turn up the heat! Try to keep up now!
The fever's taken hold. Can the Upstart keep up with Dancing Green?
And yeah, that is also Trajan Monica. Specifically on my channel, one of the things that I do for the members of the channel is that they get a little recognition at the end of the videos.
Let's finish with style.
Once people know the fights, it gets faster. Yeah, exactly, Answer. The problem is that because we all nailed it, which means you get an LB bar, just like on Savage. The problem is that people will learn the fights when it's current content, and then a lot of the players that do it because it's current content will stop doing it when it's no longer current content. Big shocker, right? Wow, really? Oh no. And then, like, the quote-unquote skill level will fall for those duties. Like, when it is current content, players that do the content because it is, like, a daily or weekly task will be doing it. When it essentially drops to being something you do because it's in the Alliance raid roulette, typically, then the average skill level drops a tad. It's also funny because this also happens with dungeons. Like old dungeons, old normal raids, old trials, is that as they stop being current, players forget how certain parts of the fights work. Or alternatively, they never knew. Or didn't matter. Or it's, you know, it could be players that weren't there when it was current. Heyo, hope you're doing well. Uh-oh. I almost did the cursed thing again.
It's all over. Until next time.
Mm-hmm. Fourth time's the charm. Oh, it says, how do I get into static with this raid? That's hard. I couldn't possibly tell you. Like, everyone has their own way to get into it. You could look for, like, I think there are subreddits dedicated to making to finding statics. There are Discord servers. There's a lot, but what works for you might not be the same as what works for someone else. Zarb suggests a website called Ziv Recruit. You could try that. Also, hey, Butterfly Spirit, hope you're doing well. I have not done FRU, but we had this stream around Christmas time where we tried it blind. We did not beat Phase 1. For EU players, there's the ERC, European Rating Central Discord. Oh, there you go. That's also an option. Hey Zarian, hope you're doing well. And yeah, exactly, Cole. The thing I said that I almost did the cursed thing is we have had in full pre-made parties near wipes, like 4 to 5 people just dead in an instant because the Froctorage dancers did the center area and everyone thought they were doing the outer area, didn't pay attention to them, got stuck in the dance animation and dead. Because when they overlap, they actually insta-kill DPS and healers, as it turns out. Alright, Caetsu, enjoy your sleep.
What inspiration will you give me, I wonder?
Welcome to Sugar Riot's Gallery of Glamours!
Gallery of Glamours.
Perhaps I'll draw.
I mean, yeah, part of the reason why I might not know super well what's on offer to like find a static is because, you know, due to my situation,
And with a flourish,
I
Sugar
just,
Riot
you know,
makes
I
our
just
work
made one.
live.
But that's very, very easy for me, right? That's not very helpful for someone who doesn't have the ability to just, you know, ask their own community if they want to come along. It's like those are the kind of points where I would be very weak because I haven't needed these things. I've tried looking at them up, but people that have actually needed to use those options, like those discords, would know a lot better what is there and what works. You can probably survive one of them, Answer. The problem is when the dancers cover the center area, it's a double hit because they're overlapping. That's where it becomes a problem. Oh, thank you, OO.
What's your favorite color?
I really appreciate that.
An image comes to me. I hope you like it hot and sandy.
Can I make this ley line before she summons cacti? I wouldn't on Savage, but I think she takes, like, she makes it on normal, she makes it a desert, and then she's like, oh yeah, I wanted to turn on the sun too. Right.
When I think desert,
Boom.
I think of these prickly fellows.
Watch out! It's a veritable storm of needles.
Uh-oh. That was, I think, a little bit of a cursed configuration.
There's something missing. Oh, I know.
Quicksand? Oh, you don't want to get caught in that.
Hey Kalia, hope you're doing well. Yeah, that is also a way to do it. Just find groups, join them in Party Finder as like a replacement.
What's your favorite color?
That's good to hear, Varian. And I do appreciate it, I do also say, whenever that comes up, that of course it's very much appreciated with the support, but I do also care that it's important that you know, you can also make things work for yourself. I would have to make it work for me without all the support, so or I'll have to try, right? So it's very much, the thought is very much appreciated.
Effortlessly dodged.
do you say to
That's
a
good, but yeah,
refreshing
that is good, Zarian. The level 60 to I would say almost like I'd say at least level 71 is a pretty rough patch for Black Mage. It's a little awkward on the rotation and such.
Crystal clear river.
But I'm glad that you're enjoying it. I think it's fun, but I could definitely see some being like, that's really, really weird. The AoE rotation 50 to 70, that's pretty rough. I often just do, in that level range, I often just do Flare, maybe reapply Thunder there, Transpose, Freeze, and then just hard cast Fire. I feel like that works better. And I believe at level 50 that is actually optimal. Like, I'm pretty sure I ran the numbers and that was actually optimal. But after 58, like, I'm not 100% sure. I haven't ran the numbers there. But I have at level 50.
Some destruction to facilitate deconstruction.
A massive raging storm! I hope you brought your parasols.
A massive raging storm!
It's all over. Until next time.
KitKat Bar says, the fact you got a clear during bridges makes me wonder what DPS in my groups are doing. Sleeping, probably. No, I'm just kidding. It works out when you have a really, really solid group. Also, hey, Champion, Percy, and KitKat Bar, hope you're doing well. Not lose a dreaming light, that's true. And actually, I do have an applied mathematics master's degree, so I do have a mathematician brain. Also true. In this lineup, we have like half of the raid-ish in high level, like in Savage gear. How do you go about calculating potencies? How do you mean, Butterfly Spirit? Like, do you mean how do you go about calculating whether a specific line is worth it? Oh, of different Black Mage rotations. Right. So the way I usually do it is that I will write out the full sequence of things you would do, right? How much potency is that? You also want to, like, you know, calculate it based on the number of targets, because when it's attacks that all do the same number of, like, same amount of potency per target, then it doesn't matter. But if because of attacks like Flare, where it does more to the primary target, the potency of Flare, relatively speaking, actually less the more targets there are per target, because the first one is, you know, bigger. So you need to take note of how many targets you're testing it on. Like a rotation that has proportionally more flares than one that has less will, of course, be less benefiting from there being a lot of targets than one that doesn't. But Flare usually wins anyway, because Flare is really strong. But you write out the full sequence of potency is what it'll be, how much damage it does, and you also have to take note of how long the cast times will be. You also have to take, in some cases, you also have to take note of GCD clipping. Like, for instance, if your sequence is flare, hard, transpose, like, it's not an instant flare, so it'll clip your GCD, then you have to take note that that means the flare cast is longer, technically. And count it all together. And then you you take all those potencies, and then you, like, if you're comparing two sequences that have vastly different cast time, like total cast times and such, which it usually does with Black Mage, you would have to take the full damage and then, as Perrin says, divide it by the total time it takes. And then you get the potency per second that it gets. And a lot, sometimes, I will say, like, for instance, the Flare, Transpose, Freeze, Hardcast, Fire 2 sequence is, like, really, it's not a big difference from, like, certain alternative sequences, because the Hardcast Fire 2 isn't great. But the Astral Fire 3 flare is really good. But you could also go, you know, Blizzard 3, Freeze, Fire 2, flare. But then you're wasting more time on Blizzard and Fire 2 and not gaining that much. And flare's that good that you'd rather spend less time in total so that the flare is more of your time. Things like that. But generally, the way you do it is you figure out how much potency each action will do in the specific context, target count, and then you write out the sequence of potencies, add them together, and then you write out the time each thing will take, add that together, and then you divide the damage by the time. The key pitfalls here are forgetting to count GZD clipping, like if you transpose after a GZD that it has a cast time of 2. And cast attacks. Like, if you cast a slow Fire 2, that takes closer to 3.1 seconds rather than 3 seconds. So, like, those things that are easy to miss, you need to keep those in mind too, or you'll get the number wrong. And the reason why it matters so much is because some of these sequences are so close together that when I say this is the optimal sequence, the second most optimal sequence is 1% weaker. So if you get the numbers wrong, you might get a different result. Oh, says, can you cook though? Decently. I'm not great in the kitchen. $3,299 spell speed. That is a lot more than I have. Are you at like 212? Two plus 2 is too difficult. Please assist. When you hit 50k, can we get a cooking stream? I cannot promise that. The one cooking video I did ages ago for April Fools was quite difficult to do in the first place. Thank you, Erdil. Yes, I am. Oh. That is also why my character has this ring. That looks like. Well, it has this ring. How do you know what is the time for a hard transpose? That you know. If you're at around 300 MS, then it's probably never the time to hard transpose. That would probably be one of the examples where you don't want to hard transpose ever. But outside of AoE rotations that are weirdly janked up,
To take it outside, the brute abominator means business.
You generally don't want to hard transpose. Usually hard transposing is a mistake on single target. But you just, like, to know, you just calculate it. You just write it out and then you know. And once you've figured it out, you're like, if you remember it, whether it was good or not, then you can use that information later.
Oh, a brutal blow! But the contender is standing firm. Dear, fiendish flora have sprouted from the scattered seeds.
But if you're playing at around 300 MS, then I would say that even the the times where you would hard transpose under good conditions, you probably shouldn't on 300 MS. Because 300 MS basically, like, if you cast Flare into transpose at like minimum latency, then just, you know, off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure at minimum latency that should take a total of about 2.7 seconds when you account for cast attacks and clipping. But if you're on 300 MS, it's probably closer to 3 seconds. Like 3 seconds straight. And at that point, it starts to be a difficult sell, let's say that.
We shall just rival flying! What fearsome strength!
Well, the difference is also that this announcer is actually announcing the mechanics and not suddenly randomly going on a huge sidetrack. Oh wait, it's circle. Neat. Should you play Red Mage if your ping is so bad that you can't dual cast? Probably not. When your ping is so bad that it janks up, then you probably shouldn't. Hey Pixel! Hope you're doing well.
He's bounding from wall to wall.
Oh no. Oh, it worked. Huh. You got lazy with the announcer this year, you think so? I feel like he's pretty good still. I think it might be more likely that we've just gotten used to him. So it doesn't feel as exciting as it did in the first tier. Is that possible, KitKat? Oh, whoops. Ow.
Oh no, that was too much for the challenger. The rooftop has caved in.
He had more lines? Did he? Maybe.
We'll send cameras in there at once. The destruction appears to have started a fire.
Zarian says you're going to R1, dodge location as caster. I am R1 in my raid team, Zarian. Hello? You're going to your spot.
Alari, the brute bomber must still be in there somewhere. A punishing attack! Oh, the true power of this monstrous fusion.
Oh, right, it's Slaminator. Yeah, I know, Zarian, but we don't.
What a thrilling battle this, and it rages on.
Will he let me stand here? I can't remember. That's the scariest thing with putting down ley lines in very mobile fights like this. When you're like, I can't actually remember if he does a thing here. Yeah, I think there's of course a lot of nuance to it all, but I think sometimes the reason why players would be like, oh yeah, Dancer's really easy in at max level is often that it's more like, it's not quite like that, but let's say that Dancer, just for the sake of example, was like a 7 out of 10 in difficulty at max level relative to all the jobs. Then someone who mains a 9 out of 10 in difficulty will look at Dancer like, that's baby mode. They might not be as good on Dancer because they don't have the experience, but if they play Dancer, they might find that a lot easier. Or it might look easier. I'm just saying a big problem that Dancer runs into a bit is that some of its rotation is random. So you have to get used to that. And I'm just thinking about points where Dancers run into trouble with mechanics is typically if it's a mechanic where you have to look at something during technical step. If you're really good at it, or you design your UI well, it's probably not a big deal because you can just glance at what you have to click and you can say 1, 2, 3, 4, done. But if you're not as experienced with it, you'll feel like, well, I need to look at the sequence to do it. My fingers are doing Twister? That's dangerous. And you know what, Zarian? At this point, we might just decide that the reason why we're doing weird things like having our fake melee be M1, have our actual mage be R1 and things like that. At this point, we're just doing it to be funny.
Let's begin, shall we?
Can the challenger defeat the wolf?
Hey Barry, hope you're doing well. It might take multiple watches, Barry. If there's something in particular that you don't quite get, if you ask it here, maybe you can explain it.
I wonder if you can keep up.
Such speed, it's as if there's a pack of him. A stylish evasion, well done.
Ha! It's all skill, everyone. Me placing down my ley lines on a random gambit that he will do his second cone where I put down my ley lines. And he does.
Can you fend off a pack of wolves?
Right. Yeah, that does... I can see that being a problem, Barry. The thing that makes a barrier healer very different from a pure healer is that you have to basically be maintaining your tank at all times, instead of just, you know, fixing it when they need some healing. Like, you basically want to like be helping them a little bit all the time.
Not bad. Not bad. But we've scarcely begun.
Real quick, guys. I'm guessing that Barry might be leveling Sage if they just picked it up, which means that the raid-specific advice you're giving is not very helpful, actually.
Still you stabbed. How delightful.
But yes, in general, as long as the raid is, you know, alive, you succeeded as a healer. Uh-oh.
Fenrir's power can be wielded in
Thank you, Perrin.
surprising
Good.
ways.
We just have to get the terminology correct. Yes. Oh, whoops.
Put the Colossus to the sword.
I don't know if this is a time to do that. But here we go. But yeah, my advice, Barry, is...
Must have hurt. But they're not out of the fight.
I am pretty sure I give examples of this in my guide. Of like sequences you can use to keep your tank healthy. Like almost like a rotation on AoE pulls. You can try and use some of those as a starting point. You don't have to do exactly that, but the general idea is to like use enough cooldowns during the AoE pulls to make sure that your tank is fine. And if you do enough, then and your tank is doing a little bit of their part, then that should work. The problem is, of course, that maybe your tank isn't great, but you can't quite see if it's you or the tank who's at fault. Like, if you don't know, then you don't know. I don't know. Oh, I have a whole video where I basically go into the concept that no one really truly knows what midcore is. So how would I be able to tell you what content lies between hardcore and midcore?
Try this.
Thank you, Erdl. Let's see, Kalia says,
Until next time.
a favorite part of Sage is how strongly it rewards you for keeping damage up. Yeah. That's also a good idea, Barry. If you can round up a few friends, that's also a good call. Eh. Dinky says, did a dungeon roulette when I first picked up Sage and got Holminster Switch. Talk about a try. Yep, that's a classic, actually. That is a classic. And also, I actually missed that one from Perrin. That is a really important one. Says, remember, you can't always heal through other people's mistakes. In fact, when you're still learning, it can be really hard to have excess resources to fix other people's mistakes at all. So that is really important. And that is also what I mean by it's really hard to know if it's yours or someone else's fault that it isn't working. If you're learning, then you might not know. Moffat says, wouldn't stuff like Mythic Plus and Heroic Raids and WoW count as midcore? Good question, Moffat. According to some players, and you will notice where that cutoff point is, where it becomes a no. According to some players, midcore content is content that you can queue for that is hard enough that you will be challenged and you probably will wipe. According to some players. Neither of those things are something that you can just queue for. So that's not midcore according to them. According to other people, that would be midcore because its challenge level is somewhere between the hardest and like the easiest, I guess? Question mark? But yeah, according to some players, no, that's not midcore because you can't queue for it. Isn't that amazing? And that is why in that video I made on the topic that it kind of just goes into a big question mark, is because while some players will say what I just said, other players will be like, no, Lemao, turn 1 and turn 2 in Savage is actually midcore. And others will be like, no, Lemao, Extreme Trials are midcore. And other players will be like, no, Lemao, actually normal raids are midcore. And other players will be like, well, if you can't queue for it, then it's not midcore. Joel's lead battle designer said turn 1 and 2 are midcore. Did they say midcore? Because I don't think they said midcore. And that is actually also just another example. If the battle designer believes that, then we just know that there's one more person that has an opinion. The problem is that people don't actually know and don't agree. It doesn't matter whether the developers think that. Hey Ash, I hope you're doing well. The only person that can truly answer that is yourself. Parents says, in my opinion, midcore and hardcore just relates to a union of time and prog expectations. Correct! Which is also why it would be absurd for Mr. Osmer to say that something is midcore and mean it like that. A hardcore raid team usually means that they invest a lot of time. A midcore raid team usually means that they invest less time than that. And a casual raid team usually invests less time than that. But if we use that same measuring stick, then a casual raid team couldn't possibly exist, right? Not in Final Fantasy XIV. Could it? Because they'd be doing casual content, right? Because that's what that means, right? It doesn't have anything to do with how much time you invest in it, does it? Yes, it does. As far as I know, and it could have changed, but as far as I know, Terraria is the only other game that talks about midcore as a type of content. And the reason why Terraria does it is because there's an actual difficulty setting called midcore. Which means that midcore is something that Final Fantasy XIV players at some point invented. It's possible the developers have heard the term as a result. But as far as I know, overall, midcore is a huge umbrella term that means content that I want to do. And I don't consider myself hardcore or casual. Which is also why what is and what isn't mid-core is different for so many players. And exactly, Asher. Exactly. The problem is also that based on the description of what mid-core would be, it would be mid-core for some players, but it would be casual for others, and it would be hardcore for yet others. And also, I think Cole has it. Casual is everything easier than what I do, hardcore is everything harder than what I do, and midcore is just right. And I will say, I can see what would cause the origin of midcore. Because on the one hand, we can talk all day about how it's like an invented difficulty setting that is in like this utopia zone that doesn't exist because you can't hit it just right. But if we look to other games, I do feel like for the average player, extremes are harder enough that they don't quite fit the mid-core quote-unquote experience. I would say to what Murphy was it? Murphy said that Mythic Plus, which is a scaling difficulty, first of all, is a really good example of quote-unquote mid-core content. At the low levels, it's easy enough that, like, as long as you don't get, like, a crucial mechanic wrong, you'll be fine. And then as it ramps up, because the mechanics become more punishing, if you didn't learn them at the lower difficulty settings, you'll have a problem now. Heroic rating is also a good example. And part of what makes that a good example is that, and I think we've talked about this before, in Final Fantasy XIV, raids have a normal and a savage difficulty. I know. Shock. Everyone is amazed at the logic and the surprise. In WoW, normal raids is the Final Fantasy XIV comparison to normal raids in WoW is, I would say, somewhere between Raid Finder and normal raid difficulty. And Savage is supposed to be the equivalent to WoW's Mythic raid difficulty. But WoW has normal and heroic between that, which means they have 2 additional whole difficulty settings that Final Fantasy does not have. And you can say all you want that, well, we also have extremes, but it's not the same fight. Like, if the difficulty scale is normal raid, extreme, savage, and ultimate, then it doesn't work the same because 2 of those are not the same fight. And that's where the problems arrive, I think. And yeah, that is also true, Perrin, and that's also that is also what makes it difficult, because we're choosing to use terms that, at least in the past, were used to refer to dedication as a difficulty scale. And also, Azarian put it, which adds to the confusion, in World of Warcraft, right now, a hardcore raid, at least in classic WoW context, actually, a hardcore raid team could mean a raid team that raids like 5 days a week or something. But it could also mean a raid team consisting exclusively of players that, if they die, then they delete their character. And both would, like, qualify for that. I think part of what makes it complicated, Perrin, is because the specific term, the reason why I latched on to the but I want to be able to queue for it when I was like giving Moffat a counter example, the reason why I latched onto that one is because I feel like that specific one is one of the descriptions of midcore that hits it the closest to exactly what they mean. Because as it feels to me often when people say that there isn't enough midcore content, it often feels like what they mean is there isn't enough content that I want to do in my way, but I don't want to specify what that is because that might sound lazy or it could be embarrassing. Like, imagine if someone said, I want more dungeons that are harder, but only slightly harder. That might be a little bit embarrassing to admit for some players. But if what you're saying is, I want content that is harder, but it has to be easy enough that I can just queue for it. That sounds really lazy, doesn't it? Why can't you just go in Party Finder? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Well, I don't want to. Oh. And then that would explain why midcore suddenly appears. But I can also see how it would appear, because admittedly Final Fantasy XIV does have a little bit of a gulf in difficulty settings sometimes. Hey Emir, hope you're doing well. Well, Emir, we finished all the duties, so I guess you missed that. Zarin says, I hope Quantum fixes the gulf. That would be nice, but the problem there is it's one encounter. Like, but if that encounter just, you know, just nails it, then maybe that's the ticket, right? The upcoming deep dungeon. No, I mean, we're actually talking about midcore, but that tends to invite also talking about WoW a little bit. But the new deep dungeon is trying to cover a little bit of everything. This new deep dungeon, it's meant to be more casual targeting, but as far as I understand, that's more relative to deep dungeons, because Eureka Authors was too many, too hard. It was too mean, whereas Heaven on High and Palace of the Dead was either just right or maybe a little easy. In the case of Palace of the Dead, some might say it's a little long, but the new deep dungeon has more checkpoints, and it's supposed to be a more, like, it based on that description that we were given, maybe a little easier than Eureka Authors, meaning a little less extremely punishing. Most enemies in Eureka Authors one-shots you if you mess up the thing they do. Like a mob just has a frontal cone attack, it kills you if you don't dodge it. It's a half-room cleave, and you just so happen to think that it was going to do a circle AoE, so you're halfway across the room. But unfortunately, the half-room cleave is 2 rooms long. That's an exaggeration, but you get the idea. Boom, dead. And then this new deep dungeon also has a special version of the final boss that has like a sliding scale difficulty. So it could work. It could be that everyone just finds the version that they want. And that one also sounds pretty good, Perrin. But you can also see how... I feel like, in that sense, where people are like, it requires somewhat minimal coordination. I don't want to have to watch a guide. I want to have the opportunity that it could wipe me, but I want to be able to beat it in one session. Normal raids, alliance raids, maybe some trials fit that when everyone is a first timer, right? Kind of, right? Like I know that a lot of teams had problems with the first Dawntrail alliance raid. Like some teams wiped many times in their first go. I think we wiped once in my alliance raid on day one. But many teams wiped multiple times apparently, and it continued into week 2 for some. Who knows, uh-oh. Who knows? And yeah, exactly, Perrin. That's also what's fun in it for me. The problem is exactly that. Imagine basically, some people are saying, we want that all the time. But that's a little bit like saying, I want to experience new story content in Final Fantasy XIV all the time. That's just not possible, right? Like if that's a definition of midcore that actually matches, then that's just not possible. The only way you could experience that is by like going and playing other games and experiencing them for the first time. I believe when we did Juno day 1, we wiped on the Angels. Hey Redmaster, that's awesome. Remember to not burn yourself out by trying to do it all in a day. It'll probably take you more than 7 hours. Hey Nox, hope you're doing well. But yeah, I'll say I have asked for, you know, things similar to Mythic Plus for I would say years at this point. I think that Quantum could be very good to add something along those lines, and if that is well received, it would not surprise me in the slightest if they added more of it. And that would probably help a ton with adding content to the game that fits better in between the content that is basically meant to, you just queue for it and you do it. And if you wipe, that's usually a surprise. And the content where you have to have watched a guide beforehand to have a chance of beating it first try and things like that. Like, there's a very large gap there, right? So it would be nice to have something like that. And the reason why sliding scale content like that works is because when you do it at its base difficulty, you might not need a guide. You can just guess, and if you guess wrong, it's fine. And then the difficulty gradually increases, and at some point it matters that you get it right. But at that point, you've kind of figured it out. You've found a way to do it. And eventually you reach a point where it might actually require a guide. But at that point, you might be invested enough that it doesn't matter that you have to watch a guide. You're like, I don't care. I would watch the guide anyways. I'm curious how other people do it. Like, that level of interest. So that's why I think it would be amazing. And I wish more content would get this. But let's not get too hasty. It might not be as good as it sounds. Might not be as good as it sounds. Yeah, exactly, Zarian. You might not need one. The main reason why I'm saying you might need one at the highest difficulties is because with Final Fantasy XIV, due to the consistency at which the consistency at which the game has really hard fights be like, oh, well, you have to do it exactly like this, almost. It becomes really, like, it can become very obvious that the strategy you used doesn't actually work when it comes to a point where it is no longer good enough. So it would make sense. But then again, who knows? Maybe you'll go in and the experience you had means that you just go, we can figure that one out. Nah, come on, we don't need a guide. We'll guess it. We'll fix it in post. Come on. Because you've gotten enough experience with the easier difficulties that you might actually have an idea of how to do it without looking up a guide. So I think Quantum might be amazing. It might also not. Like I've said, I'm just saying. Let's not get too hasty. It might not be as awesome as it sounds, but it would be awesome if it was awesome. But on that note, I think so. The only roulette that the only duty that I might have done that we skipped, is main scenario quest roulette, but that one is usually quite boring anyways. But we managed to get everything done. We also managed to get the normal raid clears done. Remember, by the way, just for all the daily rouletteers that might be in the chat, from next week 4th, there will be the new Alliance raid. And that one is a weekly re-clear for a coin. The gear is also one per week, but the coin is used for tome gear upgrades. Like this one. And you only get one per week. So, you know, if you want those, make sure to do them. So that's like on your list. Yannick says, how bad do you think people will be complaining about fixed GCD speeds and low crit values? I don't know, actually. I would guess that the jobs that want a very specific amount will be very annoyed. But there's also a very good chance that a lot of the players that are, you know, Deep Dungeon regulars will be like, oh man, why is our content popular now? Now people are complaining and wanting changes. We liked it the way it is. Hey Freezy, hope you're doing well. I don't know, oh. Both are pretty interesting. How many Juno coins do I have? I have 8. Anyway, with that said, I think this is a good time to round up the stream. So, if you enjoyed this particular stream, it helps me a lot if you leave a like on it here on YouTube. That tells the algorithm this was an enjoyable stream, but like other people enjoyed as well. So thanks so much in advance. And if you'd like to be part of the Discord community server, there's a link in the chat right there. There you'll find the weekly schedule where you can see what else is coming up in the coming days. I usually update it Sunday or Monday. And you'll also find the announcement room with links to videos and streams when I put them out. And if you grab the reminder roll in the role assignments room, you'll get a notification whenever I post a video or stream, as well as an extra one around 15 minutes before stream starts, so you can catch it right when we go live. And if you'd like to support the channel even more directly, you can become a member of the channel, you can gift memberships like you saw earlier, you can use the super chat system, or if you don't like any of that, Ardell has a Ko-Fi link right there in the chat. It all helps support me and the channel directly, so I can focus on doing stuff like this with all of you. So thanks so much for the support. But that'll be all from me tonight, so good night, good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where in the world, and I hope to see you all very soon. Bye bye!